Rick Klein, ABC News Political Director, joins us. It sounds ridiculous for anyone to say busy week to you. Now, they're all busy weeks, aren't they?
I've never known anything else in all my time here. But yes, this was an interesting one. They're not all interesting. This is interesting.
To be sure. Let's go a little inside out here. The notion that Putin was not involved in killing Prigozhin and everybody on the plane seems like a ridiculous waste of time, but it's the right thing to do to go through the process, right?
I guess. I mean, look, I think there's so many flags on this. I mean, the circumstances of a perfectly fine private jet and the fact that the Russian state media knew who was on it immediately, and obviously the context of the very public clash of the Wagner Group and Putin. I mean, it all points in the same direction. I think Putin denies these things because that's what Putin does, and that's part of his operating agenda, but I don't think he actually wants anyone to believe the denial if it is indeed true, because it, of course, solidifies his grip on power, and it's exactly what you'd expect Putin to have done.
Well, I bet you guys will talk about this. I'm sure you will on this week on Sunday on ABC, which you should watch every week. But the question I would have here is why now, and why like that? He could have put a bullet in Prigozhin's head any time during the last few weeks. He could have poisoned him, his favorite thing.
Right, but keep in mind, I mean, at least publicly, he had forgiven him and negotiated this settlement. And, I think there's also been an unwinding of the reliance on the Wagner Group for the war in Ukraine. Obviously, the situation is different. And, the revenge as a dish served cold might prevail here. I mean, from by all accounts, he was able to get away with something that no one had ever gotten away with Putin, and was walking around as a free man and living his life. And you want to do it when the guy doesn't expect it. So if you get in Putin's head on this, it might make a certain amount of sense.
There's a flight attendant on there who presumably had nothing to do with it, who's dead. There's a pilot that presumably had nothing to do with the big picture of this, who's dead. So, it's just Vladimir Putin. Soulless Vladimir Putin. Andrea Saderick.
Hey, Rick, how's it going? I want to ask you about, I know we're a day and a half out or 2 days out now, but the first debate, who you thought shone and who needs some polishing up for the next one?
Well asked. I think the debate, the center of gravity somehow was Vivek Ramaswamy. This is not a guy that anyone knew coming in and really expected it, but there he was close to the center and taking all the incoming and giving as good as he got. I also think Mike Pence had a really strong night. I think having most of the candidates back up what he did on January 6th was a powerful moment for him. I thought there was a lot of great exchanges for Nikki Haley. I thought Ron DeSantis was playing a different game, and he sort of faded into the background to my mind. His team says they've been happy with the performance, and some of the quick polling suggests the same, but I just didn't see a fully engaged with the other candidates type of performance by Ron DeSantis, and I know there's been a lot of concern in donor circles about whether he's got it, whether he can bring it.
Doesn't it feel like Jeb Bush? Like everybody had these huge expectations for Jeb Bush?
Good comparison.
I actually thought Scott Walker, if you remember back.
Yeah, true. There you go.
Well, he was the governor of Wisconsin. Actually, he was all over Milwaukee. It was funny seeing him because people would come up to him and say, "Hey, remember 8 years ago?" But he made it to the first debate. He flamed out, ran out of cash, and never even made it close to Iowa. So there's comparisons like that. I think to switch analogies a little bit. There's a lot of people that get very strong players at the state level, and they're high performers in the minors, and when they get to the majors, they just can't hit the pitching.
When you get rid of the jabs and the insults, I agree with you. I think Nikki Haley did wonderful. I love her explanations on foreign policy. I thought Chris Christie had his moments, too. I just, and I think a lot of people get caught up in the boos and then, the audience. I'd love to just see something where there's not an audience or not a town hall.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of a bunch of debates over the years, and there's always a push-pull. The supporters of the candidates want to be there. You like the energy of a crowd. It's not the same as a TV studio. But you're right that it can be distracting. And I think, this is Fox News. This is a conservative channel, conservative audience. The tickets were distributed by the campaigns primarily. These are a lot of people that presumably watch a lot of Fox News. The fact that their own moderators couldn't get some questions out was really telling. And Brett Baer had to wheel around and say, guys, if you want us to actually have to talk to the candidates, you're going to have to pipe down a little bit.
I mean, anybody that does what you guys do this week, and you as ABC News Political Director and more on the talk show side where, I try to present both sides and hammer both sides when needed and actually talk about life and try to do it. Well, I don't try to do it truthfully. I do it truthfully. I think it's really hard right now because we live in a world where everybody that assembled in Milwaukee is a distant second to a guy that's now been arrested 4 times.
Right.
You can't make that up.
And I got to say, when I was in Milwaukee this week, it was something that the campaigns were grumbling about a little bit. They were saying, one of them said to me, one of the staff said, look, are we even going to be talking about this debate 24 hours from now? And sure enough, by 24 hours from then, Donald Trump was being booked in Georgia, and it's very possible that that all of the exchanges are kind of like lost in the ether because we're talking about Trump again. It was an interesting debate because for 2 hours we weren't talking about Trump, at least not only Trump. There were other things, there were other issues, there were other paths, there were other personalities that were coming to the fore, and it was kind of liberating for those candidates. But it is sort of reality check. Like, wait a second, this is not where the campaign is actually how the campaign is being figured out. This is not the actual terrain of the Republican primary if you're not talking directly to Donald Trump.
Well, they're not Republicans; they're Trumplicans because you need a healthy Republican Party, and this ain't it. So going forward, of that group, how many of them were auditioning for vice president as opposed to thinking they could actually win?
Yeah, or thinking about 2028 if Trump wins the nomination, there's going to be an open side on the.
That's cute. Like the country will still exist.
Yeah, how quaint. Yeah, so I look. Vivek obviously denies running for VP, but clearly he's got that written all over him right now. Tim Scott is another one we did talk about earlier, who was really kind of in his own lane there, not very controversial. You can imagine a couple of, and then Trump also has oddly weird, nice things to say about Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota, who really was a non-factor on Wednesday. So I think some of it is, playing out for down the road. These are substantial men and women. I don't doubt that all of them want to be president, but the circumstances are such that it's pretty obvious who the front runner is, and it would take something dramatic to change that, which isn't to say it can't happen. I mean, I fully expect Trump to be at the debates that start happening in the fall at least. And it all can make for a different dynamic before January when the voting starts.
How do you decide what the lead story is Sunday?
Well, we'll see what happens Saturday. I mean, that's how the news environment operates. I mean, look, I think, 4 indictments. This one even more dramatic with the mugshots. I mean, historically, this is a big moment, and the fact that 6 of those 8 candidates on the stage raised their hands and said they still support Trump, even if he were convicted. Between now and next November.
It's an embarrassment.
A striking moment, a striking statement about where the party is.
Yeah, just an embarrassment. Real Republicans unite, go out and vote. There's some of you out there. It's 6:15. Rick, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Rick Klein, ABC News political director and the boss at This Week with George Stephanopoulos. I don't know if you know this. He's Greek.
He is.
Yeah.
That's his real name, too.
No, really is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.